green all the time, so I appreciate it. We do have some people joining us tonight that are going to hopefully be new members. So we have, I don't know if everybody's here, but we have Town of Hastings. We have Tony Bush is the mayor. From Town of DeWitt, we have Andy Miller. I think there is here. He's in one of the boxes on my screen.
We have two Carries.
And Carrie Mannion. Sure. Okay. May be killing these names. And Carrie Busco. Sure. We'll go with that one. If I ruin your name, I really apologize. DeWitt Fire District. Jason Green is the chief. Town of Camillus. Oh gosh, really? John Batchurik. We'll go with that. Town of Onondaga, Kimberly Burt. Village of Skinny Atlas, Lori Walter. Village of Camillus, Dick Waterman. Town of DeRuyter, Rex Bossberg, and I think Rex is on the screen someplace. There we go. Thank you, Rex. All right, so we want to welcome those of you that are with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, as we get to vote in new members, you'll be interested in working with some of our committees. We have some great committees. So I would like to start off, and Kylie, Lynn, or Terry, just keep us posted on how many numbers we have so we can jump back. Changes to the agenda. We just have some modifications on who's going to be presenting information, but we're not going to, well, we're going to jump around a little bit depending on voting. So a little bit of a change of agenda that way. We'll come back to 3 once we have a quorum. So number 4, board chair and executive committee report. I just wanted to give an update on we're kind of doing a long-term planning update. We have started some small groups of the executive committee, have been meeting. So our executive committee meets every other month, and our small committee has been meeting on the opposite month. So we're pretty busy in that way. One of the main things that we've been discussing is Medicare Advantage, in which we are doing some work with an RFP on a Medicare Advantage program, and looking at the advantages, disadvantages, costs versus having it versus what could happen to our plans. We have approved a premium equivalent rate audit. We have contracted with another company that's going to do an outside look at our premiums to make sure that we're in good standing with our premiums. It's been 11 years of business, so it's a good time to do it. And we talked about risk a lot. It was one of the things that's been a hot topic for us, and we've talked about what we want to do strategically moving forward. Obviously, we want to grow. Some of the growth is coming just knocking on our doors. There's been some work by Elin and the staff on reaching out, but the committee did really focus on the fact that we wanted slow, steady growth versus no growth or jump in the full pond all at one time kind of thing. So, and with looking at the number of members and the number of participants they're going to be bringing, I think we're kind of hitting that slow, steady, nice pace growth. So Elin can add anything that I forget to mention that's not on my list. Our 2023 meeting schedule. We do have on the back of the agenda our 23 meeting schedule for when our board education session is going to be, and our annual meeting next year. We'll also have when we approve the committee structure, all of the dates when the committees meet. And I think there's still some vacancies, so always looking for people to want to serve on committees. Anything else I was supposed to add there? Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the executive director's report. Elin?
Great. So the pretty comprehensive package that was emailed to you includes my written report. But first, let me say hello, welcome. It's great to see those of you in person and to have the rest of you online for our annual meeting. We're kind of scattered throughout the year now that we no longer have board meetings on a regular monthly basis, and then COVID kind of blew that all up. There's people in this room that I work with on a weekly, daily basis that, this is like the second time I've seen them in person. So really fun evening, and thank you all for coming out. And for those of you online, I think we may need one more person to join us, and then we can start voting. So fingers crossed that someone else jumps online soon. Because we had a lot of chairs either sick this evening or out of the country, I'm going to do a lot of the reporting for our chairs. So I'm not going to talk too much now. I will reference my written report and all the written reports that I put out in the packages, but I wanted to highlight just a few things for you. Our staff is here. You probably never see our staff. So I wanted to make sure you probably met Lynn, the most recent addition to our staff, Lynn Sheldon, who actually came from TC3. So she's back home tonight. And then we have Terry Aplovich and Kylie Rodriguez in person. So these are our staff members. And I'm happy. We also have our HR manager with us as well this evening. So a great opportunity for you to meet people in person. Now, I know one thing, when the budget comes around later, we always get this question: how are our administrative costs now that we've added staff, which means we've added benefits, which means we're leasing a space, buying computers. And so I've asked—
Buying health insurance.
And buying health insurance, the most affordable, rate stabilized health insurance in the area. And so I asked Terry to put together a spreadsheet for me, specifically regarding administrative costs. Now, if you look at the circle that's in Losi and Cahill's report, there's some other things thrown in with admin. The other things include some crazy interest rates and loss on interest rates and the way we have to calculate that, some other insurance not related to staff. So we just pulled out all costs specific to staff, including our parking passes in the City of Ithaca garage. So as a percent of total expenses, with the movement from spending money on consultants to staff, we are in 2022 at 1.13%, and in 2023, huge increase to 1.33%. So our target is to remain at or under 2% of total expenses, and we're definitely doing that. So you can welcome the staff when you see them. So the other question I get asked a lot is, how will our recommended increase compare to the market? And Excelis shared with me, they did go to the Department of Financial Services with a range for their community rated plans. I think they went there with as high as 12%, and they were from like 6 to 12%, and their aggregate increase for Excelis for community rated plans similar to our membership is around 9.4%. So when we look at our increase later, that we can look and compare it to the Excelis marketplace. As Judy mentioned, we were hoping that we would have a Medicare Advantage proposal or some further discussion regarding Medicare opportunities for our retirees. And we're still working on that. The staff in Losi and Cahill are working together on pulling that together. It didn't come as quickly as we thought it would, and there's a lot of information and a lot of changes going on in that marketplace right now. But we are continuing to work on that, and as soon as we have some recommendations, we'll circulate it to the committees and then bring it to the board. So overall, as Judy said, we're really excited about our slow, steady growth, increasing our risk pool. We continue to be an effective, efficient operation, and I'm very excited to still be a part of it. Speaking of people who are either parts of it or not parts of it, I would like to do some recognition at this time before we move forward and start voting on all the resolutions in front of you. A lot of you know Michelle Coco. She retired earlier this year. We did put together a resolution of appreciation for Michelle. That resolution was passed by the executive committee. And I did want to share with you that we celebrated her on her retirement. Since she's retired, she's not only been on one cruise, she's been on 2 cruises. So I think we can safely say that Michelle is enjoying retirement. I'm also really flattered that I have now butt dialed her on 2 occasions because she's still on speed dial and she returns my calls. So I thought since we were together that we would want to recognize Michelle again. So the second recognition, Judy, I think, is going to cover that recognition for us.
Yes. So we also have another retirement that is happening, and Rick Snyder, who has been with the consortium since he started in 2013 with the county, has been taking care of our finances here at the consortium. So we have a resolution of appreciation that we would like to read for Rick. So just bear with me. There's a lot of whereases, but it's important. So resolution of appreciation for Richard Snyder's dedicated years of service to the consortium. Whereas when Tompkins County hired Richard C. Snyder, Rick Snyder, as we call him, in 2013, the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium was fortunate enough to have already contracted with Tompkins County for finance and accounting services. Whereas Rick, in addition to his full-time director of finance position with Tompkins County, was volunteered to be the consortium's treasurer and ended up volunteering with the consortium as not just the treasurer, but also ran accounting services for the consortium for 9 years. And whereas in addition to his full-time job at Tompkins County, Rick has been known to attend many evening meetings and work odd hours in support of the consortium. Whereas the consortium has been able to secure many services and expert support by taking advantage of Rick's Tompkins County relationships. Whereas for many years, Rick has learned the challenges associated with quarterly and annual financial reports and has dutifully responded to the myriad of questions that follows any interaction with the New York State Department of Financial Services. Whereas Rick has an amazing archive of emails and memos regarding the consortium's business interactions that he is able to pull up in a moment's notice. Whereas Rick's role has changed over the years as the needs of growing organizations transform, but his commitment to accurate reporting and accounting practices have always remained steadfast. Where Rick is now at a stage in his life where he can celebrate retirement both from Tompkins County as well as the consortium. I'm like, you're just going to leave us? I mean, come on. Whereas Rick is wished much happiness as he steps down and finds time to explore other experiences that bring him joy with his friends and family. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board of directors, staff, consultants, advisors, and associates acknowledge the retirement of Rick Snyder and are appreciative of his many devoted and exemplary years of service. Resolved further that on this 22nd day of September 2022, the board of directors expressed its sincere gratitude to Richard C. Snyder for his distinguished and dedicated service to the Greater Thomas County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. Rick, we have a nice resolution for you. And so everything.
Very much.
Mm, thank
Been an
you,
honor.
Rick. We want to, did you do it?
I did. All right, so you guys are back.
Got my best sign?
I got your sign. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Now, depending on how you vote, oh, we got to vote.
We got to vote on it. So I would like to move that resolution. Is there somebody who would like to second that resolution? Peter? Okay. I'm going to go for no discussion, but all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Raise it on the screen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Huh? We have to have you on video to count votes. That's very, very important in this lovely time of
Figuring out open meetings laws.
open meetings law and New York State requirement. So, so thank you. Rick, enjoy. We really want to say thank you. Helped us a great deal over the year.
We,
Started small and now you're large and we're bigger all the time. And I'm just glad I had a part. It was a real learning experience for me. Did a lot of government accounting over 37 years. And health insurance consortium is really quite a different thing altogether. I think he's a good hand.
and we're not saying goodbye to Rick yet. He still has a lot of downloading. Great. Thank you, Rick.
So if you're on via Zoom, now that we're not going to do a vote, you can put yourself back on mute and just make sure you come off when we're ready to cast a vote. And you're still going?
Yeah.
Okay.
So depending on how you vote later, and I think it's regardless of how you vote later, our chairperson has decided to retire from the consortium and only be our HR manager going forward. So we will have a new slate of officers later in the agenda. But Judy has been around since the beginning of the consortium, worked tirelessly as a volunteer for many years as the secretary and various other roles before she became the board chair. And I think Warden would like to say some words about Judy.
Thanks, Elin. I appreciate it. Yeah, Judy and I are an increasingly small group of folks who are here from Sunrise of the consortium. And I've had the opportunity to work with Judy on several occasions on issues related to the consortium. And I think that it's not an exaggeration to say that the consortium would not be in the place that it is today with the strength that it exhibits every year if it weren't for Judy's leadership. And so I'd like to read a resolution thanking Judy for her many years of service to the consortium. Whereas when the consortium was certified by the New York State Department of Financial Services, it was the work of many dedicated volunteers from municipalities in Tompkins County that helped form the organization and start delivering services to its member participants in January 2011. And whereas Judy Drake, in addition to her full-time human resource manager position with the town of Ithaca, was supporting the consortium as its secretary as one of its founding members. And whereas Judy was officially appointed as the chair of the board of directors in 2014 and has been a dutiful servant leader for 8 years. And whereas Judy has been extremely involved in managing the consortium and assisting with day-to-day operations on a regular basis. And whereas Judy has been instrumental in creating policy, developing organizational structure, and growing the consortium from the initial 13 members covering 2,000 municipal employees to an organization of 53 members covering 3,100 municipal employees and retirees. And whereas Judy has never been shy with sharing her own thoughts about advancing the mission of the organization But she has also been very persistent at making sure other opinions are voiced and heard. And whereas Judy's work shows her attention to detail and the care and concern she has for making sure this organization continues at a high functioning level. And whereas it is our hope that Judy will, as promised, remain involved as an active municipal participant and as the HR manager for the organization, but will also now find more time to decorate cakes, exercise at the gym, and participate in Spartan challenges. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors, staff, consultants, advisors, and associates acknowledge the resignation of Judy Drake as Chair of the Board of Directors and are appreciative of her many devoted and exemplary years of service. And be it further resolved that on this 22nd day of September 2022, the Board of Directors expresses its sincere appreciation, admiration, and gratitude to Judy for her distinguished and dedicated service to the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. And I would so move.
Would somebody like to second that?
I would second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Thank you, appreciate that very much.
Aye.
You have beautiful flowers.
You're gonna have to stand up so we can get your picture.
Very nice surprise.
Okay.
Anything else? you would like
Yeah,
to-
I'd like to thank you, Judy, for getting me involved in this whole mess. If Judy ever invites you out to lunch, pass.
May mean you're gonna apply for a job and then interview.
You never know what's gonna happen. This concludes my report.
Thank you. So Lynn has shared with me, we have the great news that we have a quorum, so we get to do business tonight. So awesome. We're going to jump back to number 3, which is ratify the executive committee's approval of our September 23rd, 2021 minutes. They are in the packet. The executive committee at their first meeting in January did approve the minutes from the last annual meeting, but we would like to have the full board approve those minutes. So would somebody like to move them? Mark? Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Eric, any comments, discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the September 23rd, 2021 minutes, say aye.
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 Okay, nays, abstentions. Okay, those minutes are officially approved, so thank you. And then we will move on to number 6, report from the Nominations and Engagement Committee. Ed Bear Brothers cannot be with us tonight, so I think Ellen's going to be doing that report.
I will be doing that. The resolution can be found on page 28 in your packet. Ed contacted me earlier this week and told me that he had planned on being here, but once he got his camper at the beach, there was poor Wi-Fi. So he could not join us this evening and asked me to put forward this slate of candidates. The Nominations and Engagement Committee meets on a regular quarterly basis, specifically to ask you to become more involved in the organization. And this is the kind of the culmination of all of that work. We first would like to put the resolution in front of you appointing our officers for next year. So with Judy's resignation, we have nominated Warden Hart as chairperson, Lisa Holmes as vice chair, Steve Thayer as chief financial officer, and Peter Salton as secretary.
Okay, so we will, would somebody like to move this resolution, election of the 23 consortium officers?
I would move.
Laura Tully, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Can you say your name so I can grab it real quick?
Yep, it's Carolyn Sosnowski.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Any comments, discussion? Thank you, Roden, for stepping up. I appreciate that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Great.
All right, so now on page 29 of the packet is the committee structure and appointment of committee members. One thing the board must do is appoint the executive committee that acts on behalf of the board throughout the year. So we do have some new names on the executive committee as people switch roles and or retire. So the officers are automatically on the executive committee with Warden Hart, Lisa Holmes, Steve Thayer, and Peter Salton filling those roles just based on our previous resolution. Unfortunately, Jimmy Bauer has resigned as the chair of the joint committee, was unable to be with us this evening. So Laura Shawley will give his report with some support from us. But we have had a candidate step forward, but the joint committee is not meeting again until the beginning of November, when they will elect that person, and that person will then serve in this seat as the chair of the joint committee. Ray Bunce will remain as an at-large member. Our operations chair will change to Laura Granger as Lisa Holmes moves over to the vice chair. Nominations and engagement, Ed Fairbrother will remain in that position. Claims and appeals, Bud Shattuck. At large, Eric Snow. Also at large, Gary Muchler. New at-large member, Mayor Steve from City of Cortland. And the past chair, Judy Drake. So this will be the first time we will have that past chair seat on the executive committee. So those are the executive committee nominees. The other committee members, we've added some new people to audit and finance, operations committee, and there are still vacancies on the nominations and engagement committee. There's a vacancy on operations for a labor rep, which we hope to also fill in November. And claims and appeals remains predominantly the same. So that is the slate of committee appointments before you.
Thank you. So would somebody like to move the resolution creation of the 2023 committee structure and appointments of members?
I will.
Okay,
And I'll second it.
who is the second? I'm sorry, I didn't catch
Carol
that.
Sosnowski.
Oh, thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Any comments, discussion? We do have some vacancies in there, especially on the labor side. So as you're looking over that resolution, or if any of these committees sound interesting, you're always able to attend. Now that we can do it through Zoom, you can have it on your computer and listen and see what's going on. So please reach out to us if you're interested at all in serving on one of them. All those in favor of approval of the creation of the 2023 committee structure, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention. Okay, so that passes. Thank you, Elin. And I'm going to let you keep going
All right.
as we move on to report of the operations committee.
Apparently, a lot of locations are having budget meetings tonight, so we were in great competition, including Tompkins County, which is Lisa Holmes. So we'll talk about the resolution regarding the municipal cooperative agreement coming from the operations committee. The municipal cooperative agreement is our governance and what must be filed with the Department of Financial Services. Every time there is a change to the municipal cooperative agreement, or MCA, found on page 32 of your packet, we need to file it with the Department of Financial Services for approval. So this recommendation will go to them. We're also making a recommendation which will also have us update our certificate of authority. So any increased territories do not increase until they put their blessing on it. And that could be a day or a year before we hear on that. So the changes that have been proposed, every year we need to file an amendment because every time we have new members added, which we will be doing shortly, we have to update with an amendment to the Department of Financial Services. So that will come automatically. In addition to that, we are asking that we increase our territory to include Madison and Livingston counties. They are the only two counties in the Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield Rochester region that we did not include the last time we asked for growth. And we have been requested to by municipalities in that area to give them an opportunity to explore us as well. So we are adding them to our regions, requesting that they be added. And then based on the previous announcement regarding Rick, we are changing the treasurer's role. Each year, the board appointed a treasurer, and without Rick and with switching to a finance manager for most of the day-to-day responsibilities that our chief fiscal officer can delegate to our finance manager, Terry, we will remove that obligation of the board to appoint a treasurer. We will still have a chief fiscal officer, and Steve Thayer will give his report shortly, but that is a change. So it says we'll be removing appointing a treasurer, and then the CFO will be able to delegate instead of to the treasurer to the finance manager. So those are the changes. They are highlighted in red in your packet on pages 35, 41, and 42.
Okay, I just want to correct Elin. So Madison's already one of our counties, so we're adding Monroe.
Yes, thank you.
I was like,
Thank
Madison,
you.
hold it, that doesn't sound like what we talked about.
I even wrote down
Yes,
Madison.
I know, I was like,
Yeah, so much for these notes.
all right, so
It does? Oh, we need to change the res. How do we get that this far?
okay, so the resolution also needs to read in the 1, 2, 3, 4th, whereas should read Monroe, not Madison, and Livingston County. So we'll have that resolution as revised. So would somebody like to move this resolution approval of the 2023 municipal cooperative agreement?
So moved.
Peter, is there a second?
Janine, aye.
Or Mark, or Mike, yeah, from Village of Dryden. Okay, any discussion on the resolution? We're always happy to be able to add new members. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the 2023 municipal cooperative agreement resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Okay, great, thank you. I think we do want to remind folks that there is going to be a portal where every municipality is going to have to pass the resolution with your board again and send that on through the portal. So we appreciate that. We would love to have the Department of Financial Services allow us to do something different, but it is what it is. Lynn, I'm sure we'll be following up with folks in the new year as we go through that. Okay, anything else from operations at this point?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So we'll move on to number 8 on the agenda, report from the Audit and Finance Committee. Steve there.
Steve should be in the library location. There he
I am
is.
here. Yes, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Great. So I am the chair, Steve there, chair of the Audit and Finance Committee. And we've been busy all year long. And so tonight we bring a few resolutions to you for approval. The first resolution is the acceptance of applications by the towns of Camillus, DeWitt, Onondaga, Hastings, the villages of Camillus and Skinny Atlas, and the DeWitt Fire District to become participants in the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium effective January 1st, 2023. They have gone, all the applicants have gone through the required review process with no issues. And so they've been approved through that process. This would take our membership from, I believe, 53 members to 60 members at this time. So I'll just read the resolved on recommendation of the Audit and Finance Committee, the Board of Directors hereby accepts and welcomes the towns of Camillus, DeWitt, Onondaga, and Hastings, the villages of Camillus and Skinny Atlas, and the DeWitt Fire District as municipal participants in the consortium with health insurance coverage beginning January 1st, 2023, pending receipt, additional analysis, and approval of all required documentation, and I so move.
Steve moves that. Would somebody like to second that resolution?
I'll second it.
Okay, Eric. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move for a vote. All those,
Excuse me, did DeRider get left out, or I didn't hear DeRider in there?
That's the
You'll be
next
next.
resolution.
Okay, thank,
Yes, we haven't
Thank you.
forgotten you.
glad you're here, you're listening. Yay. Thanks, Fred. Okay, so we'll go back. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Okay, so that resolution passes. Steve, you can keep going.
Okay, thank you. And so the rider came in a little later than the other organizations that we just approved, but we have another application for approval. That is the town of the rider. Resolved on recommendation of the Audit and Finance Committee that the Board of Directors hereby accepts and welcomes the town of DeRider as a municipal participant in the consortium with health insurance coverage beginning January 1st, 2023, pending receipt, additional analysis, and approval of all required documentation. And I so move. We'll get a second.
Okay, would somebody like to second that?
Tom Brown.
Tom Brown. Okay, thank you. Any comments or discussion?
So this just brings us to 61 members, I believe. And again, the town of DeRider has met all the requirements and went through the process with no issues.
Great. Okay, so all those in favor of adding the town of DeRider, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Okay. So that is approved. So welcome to all of those new towns and villages.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us this evening. Just before Steve moves forward with his report, this has been a most unusual year for us. Usually we have all the applications in and we know everybody who's going to be a member, and then things get really quiet until next spring. Kylie and I have five applicants lined up for 2024, and we have some interested in 2023. as well. So we're looking at, we're continuing discussions with all those applicants. Another thing that's been also really new and interesting this year is we've been dealing with several brokers, and we haven't really partnered with brokers in the past. As you know, we don't pay commission. So that means our members would have to elect to hire a consultant that would be working with us. And so that's been a great experience as well, moving us through this process. And I know several of our new members are still going through contract negotiations, but they're all heading in a very positive direction. So I'll start nagging them soon on signing that municipal cooperative agreement. But it's been great fun looking at our new territories and meeting with these new municipalities, and having our first fire district standalone as a member. So welcome aboard, first of all, and also just want to say on behalf of all of you, what a pleasure it has been going through this process.
Okay, Steve, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So the next resolution is a resolution to authorize extension of contract for prescription drug claims administrator for 2023, and that would be ProAct. I will read the resolved. Resolved on recommendation of the Audit and Finance Committee that the contract with ProAct for prescription benefits manager services be extended per the terms outlined in the addendum for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. And also be it resolved further that Chair of the Board of Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium is hereby authorized to execute said contract with ProAct Inc. I will move that resolution.
Would somebody like to second that resolution?
I'll second.
Laura? Okay.
And just a couple comments on this. So we had an original resolution that allowed us to get to have two-year extension of the current contract. So that would be for 23 and 24. So this is extending the contract for 2023. ProAct continues to work to improve their systems, which should improve their overall performance. We have continued to work with them on discussions with the RX rebate discussion and situation there. So that's improving as well. We are hopefully in the future, we'll change that rebate system a little bit. And I can also say that this contract for 2023 is on the same terms and conditions as the 2022 contract. And I don't know if either Elin or someone from Losi and Cahill want to add anything?
I think you probably summed it up, unless Steve wants to add anything. The Operations Committee has been looking at ProAct's performance, as Steve has said, and we are, Losi and Cahill and the staff is working with ProAct on making sure all of those rebates come through, the expected performance that the Operations Committee has outlined, that we continue to follow up with that. So with the terms that were put in the 3-year contract, which does have improved rates over time, and there are some things we're still trying to clarify with them, but this would be reinforcing the extension of that contract. I'd also like to note, I did see him, I still see him on the screen. We do have Corey back on our team for a period of time as he covers for our current account representative who is out on maternity leave. So welcome back, Corey, as well. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Elin, and thanks everyone for the continued commitment and support, and we look forward to the collaboration.
Great, thank you, Corey. All right, so we have a move and a second. we'll call for a vote to authorize the extension of our PROACT as our PBM. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention. Okay. So that passes. Okay, Steve.
Okay, our next resolution is authorizing the healthcare benefits renewal administrative services agreement with third-party administrator Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield. Resolved on recommendation of the Audit and Finance Committee on behalf of the Board of Directors hereby approves the 2023 healthcare benefits renewal with Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield under the proposed fee structure presented to the Board of Directors for 2023, 2024, and 2025. Resolve further that the chair of the Board of the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium be authorized to execute the 2023 contract on behalf of the consortium, and I so move.
Okay, would somebody like to second that resolution? Okay, Eric. Okay, any discussion, anything to add to that discussion?
Yeah, I would like to add that this is a great renewal of our contract. We usually receive a 3-year contract from Excelis, and that has a sliding scale in it from year to year based on the size of the organization. So with the recent approval of new members, we're, well, and by we, I mean Losi and Cahill, are trying to negotiate that next year we have that lower rate with the increased headcount due to our new membership. I'd also like to make note that Brandon Holt is also on the line. He is our new account manager and in place of Beth Miller. So I think this is his first annual board meeting with us. So we welcome Brandon to the team and look for your support on the extension of that contract. And actually, each year without the sliding scale, we're still under 3% increase.
Okay. Brendan, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
So if you run into him on the street, you at least know who Brandon is. Brandon, we welcome you as you take on a new role at Excelis. So we're glad to have you. Okay, so we have a move and a second. So we'll call for a vote approving the Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield resolution. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So in those two resolutions with the prescription drug administrator and our third-party administrator for medical is one of the requirements that happens tonight at the annual meeting. So thank you for moving those. So now we are going to move on for our 2022 financial update and 2023 budget presentation. Paul is going to be doing that for us. Steve Losi is on the line, but I guess he is not feeling well. So
Okay,
we
so I
get
know
Paul
when you
in.
approach the podium and there's a 60-page slide, everybody gets a little anxious about that. But we'll move through it as quickly as we can. But with that, I want to make sure that you have a good understanding of our budget philosophies that were used, where we currently stand financially this year, and where we're looking at for next year's budget. So we'll move it along, but we'll also make sure that you get the information you're looking for tonight. Really, when we build our budgets and we think about it, you not only have your current year budget plan, but we have 5 philosophies that we look at when we're keeping the budget in mind. And those are established by the board. We look at net income goals for the year. We look at statutory reserve funds. There's 2 under Article 47, an IBNR reserve and a surplus reserve. And then we have 2 discretionary reserves that we try to hit targets at and plan on, the rate stabilization reserve and the catastrophic reserve fund. And then we also have a fund balance target that we have, and we look out about 5 years when we're doing that to try to long range plan and not keep every year as an individual item. So I'll give you a little bit of information about those targets. then we'll hit the, where we stand currently financially, and then we'll move into what the budget is for 2023. Our net income goal is simple. Each year we try to budget, and this does have wiggle room, and it depends on where we are fund balance wise. We try to budget about approximately a 2% net income for the year. Simply stated, we want 1% to maintain our fund balance and 1% to enhance our reserve funds as needed. Our reserve funds are typically a percentage of either claims or premiums paid. So as your budget grows and you add members like we're going to this year, 300 plus, you're going to need to increase those reserve funds to meet those demands. One of the statutory reserve funds is the IBNR reserve fund. And that's simply put, it's a restricted account. It's required by New York state law, and it needs to be funded up to a level that's set by the superintendent of the Department of Financial Services. Currently, that level is approved at 12% of our expected hospital, medical, surgical, pharmacy claims. And that was approved back in October of 2010. So when you add up all our claims together, you multiply that by 12%. That's the amount that we're required by law to retain in a reserve fund. Our surplus account is also a restricted account and required by law under the Department of Financial Services, and that's equal to 5% of the expected earned premium for the consortium. So you take your 5% number of all premiums expected to be brought in, and we're going to have to amend that number when we bring in the new members. So when I get into the budget presentation, I'm going to talk about this. This is based on our current population. Down the road, as we move in the next month or two, we're going to have to look at the new contracts coming in and make those adjustments and amend the budget appropriately on the claim side, the premium side, and reserve fund side. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Our catastrophic claims reserve is a discretionary reserve fund, and that was established by the board pursuant to a resolution in 2014. And what that does is that helps to protect us from any catastrophic claims that aren't covered by stop loss insurance. Back in 2000, I believe it was 2019, we used to carry $500,000 deductible, or excuse me, $600,000 deductible for our stop loss insurance. And then in 2020, looking at the cost of premium, how our claims were falling, and the way that we were standing financially with our reserve funds and everything, we decided to up that deductible to $1 million. The net result of that is a dramatic savings in money. Prior to that, we were paying about $700,000 for stop loss insurance. In 2020, that dropped to $265,000, stayed about flat in 21, and this year we brought it in at about $197,000. So it's a significant amount of money to save, but yet you have that risk benefit analysis. Okay, how many claims do we have each year that come in over 100,000? How many claims come in over 600,000? So that's why we have this catastrophic claims reserve on top of our IBNR and on top of other required reserve funds. So a balance between our stop loss insurance and the catastrophic claims reserve helps protect us and our financial integrity. The rate stabilization reserve is a discretionary reserve. We're putting that at 7.5% of our expected claims. We set that money for unforeseen expenditures that are unanticipated and to help stabilize budget premium increases when they might be a little higher than we think that the membership can handle at a particular time. So that money's set aside so you can offset a year where you hear out in the marketplace, everybody's low, their health insurance is going up 10%. You're going to hear much lower numbers than that. This group has some financial success. They've done very well. So we don't ever want to talk about those 10%. So we have that reserve fund that we can tap into here and there if we need to bring it down 1% or 2% on any given year to keep you in a range where your municipalities can manage it better. And then we have a fund balance target, and you're going to see at the end of ours, we ebb and flow a little bit below it and then start to rise back up to it. We target 4 years out to be at about 12% of fund balance on hand that's undesignated. And that's your rainy day fund. That's when you run into a series of catastrophic claims that could potentially tap out your catastrophic claims reserve, but don't reach the level yet of being able to be covered by stop loss. Health insurance claims can get away in a very big hurry. So this group has been well reserved and very financially prudent over the years and is in strong financial shape right now. So those are the 5 things we think about as we're building the budget. So I want to give you a little bit right now where we stand financially for this year and then what we're looking at for next year moving forward. Currently, as of August 31st, yep, we're on slide 11. I should be giving you slides, I think. As of August 31st, we're currently about 2.5% below budget on the revenue side. Now, a good portion of that's on the premium income, and the reason that happens is you have changes in plan designs. We're going to adopt a budget right now based on where everybody is in the plan right now. Many municipalities negotiate contracts. If they negotiate a contract that has some additional RX co-pays, or maybe they move to a platinum plan, those bring in less premium revenues then, but there's also an offset on the claim side. So you got to remember that when we're building a budget, we're building it based on today's population, and the plans are on this many single policies, this many family policies, and then it changes and ebbs and flows until we get to January. Another number that's showing a little light here right now is the RX rebates. So the RX rebate, we're under a new agreement with ProAct, and we had a meeting with them the other day, and it's a very positive meeting. So the big number that's missing from the number right now is a reconciliation payment that goes back to 2021. That's going to add about $1 million to this one particular line item. And then we have another quarterly payment that's going to come in before the end of the year. That should be 800,000 plus. So you can add 1.8 million to that line item, and then that revenue side is going to start looking a lot better as we move forward. Okay, you can go to slide 14, please. See, I didn't talk every slide. I'm just gonna move ahead there. Okay, on the expenditure side, we have some very positive results. Right now, we're about 7% below on our medical claims through August 31st. And this morning before we came, or afternoon, we did look out and see where we were stacking up for September. We're a little bit under 7% below budget for September. The first 3 weeks, 6.8 or so, but still following that trend. So a comfortable trend right now. We're a little high in the RX claims, about 2.08% above budget at the present time. And our admin fees are up a little bit, but you got to remember that admin fees are per contract per month. So as we add groups and stuff like that, our budget might have been a little low. We added more contracts than we thought. So that drives those fees up a little bit because it's a per contract per month admin fee. So we missed the target there a little bit, but we've adjusted for next year. And then when we amend our budget, as I talked about, for the new groups coming into 300 plus, we're going to have to make sure we get that admin fee set at a nice number also. All other categories really are below budget. I do want to bring some attention. I know it's pretty small up there also. The stop loss fee looks like it's significantly below budget. And the way I want to talk about that, and just briefly, not to get too deep in the woods, is we plan that. So we budget for a more expensive stop loss plan. And if we ever need to go back to that $600,000 deductible, this group's not going to get stung with a large increase in the budget. So we have that in there. And what we do with those excess funds, if they are available, depending on the way the budget year shakes out, we set those into our catastrophic claims reserve. And then we utilize those to fund any claims that come between $500,000 and that $1 million deductible. So there's a gap there. So right now you build in the budget really a little bit over one of those claims that you've got that in the budget. So budgeting between your stop loss breakage, your catastrophic claims reserve, and your stop loss insurance, just another level of protection for those large loss claims. All other categories on this side, and I only want to point out one more thing really on this side. This year was a new accounting method for our gains and losses on investments. So that one looks a little skewed in here because it's a new number in here. On the expense side, we have over 600,000. On the revenue side, we have about 131,000. Now, as those investments grow and mature, and by the time they get to it, it's called a mark to market. And probably Rick could explain it a heck of a lot better than me. If you ever want to have an image, you know, maybe in the back corner after the meeting, he can bring you up to speed. But
Take a couple hours.
if you take that out of the equation, though, right now we're tracking about $400,000 ahead of budget. But you take those little tiny differences in the market, and by the time the investments mature at their full value, we're really about almost $885,000 ahead of budget right now when you take those little investments. And again, that was an accounting change proposed by our auditors this year. So I just wanted to point that out because it does kind of skew a couple of the charts of the numbers. Just slide 15 quick, I think. And, yeah. So right now, the paid claims roughly equal about 93 cents on every dollar. So every dollar we bring in premium income, we pay 93 cents out to pay your membership claims. So that's your RX claims, all the other medical claims. Now you take that number I talked about for the investment loss out, and we're at about 94.5 cents on every dollar we have to pay claims. So that's that low administrative fee that Elin was talking about. Not only the in-house fee, but even the Excellus fee. When you're only paying, you know, 5%, 5.5% in admin fees for all in-house, labor and your RX admin and your medical admin, a very efficient model and doing very well. If you want to just move to slide 17, we won't spend a lot of time on these, but just some graphic presentations. Shows you where we are with the red bars being our actual expenditures versus our budget expenditures, showing that we are below budget again. Again, that top bar is where that investment loss side is buried in there, so don't get hung up on that one. Again, there's an offset to it, and by the time they both grow up, we'll be on the good side of things. So let's see, we'll go to the next pie chart. Again, showing you the paid claims. This really shows you when, as big as we can get that blue piece, that's the goal. And that's the goal every year. Get that big. You want the whole pie there if you can. You'll never get the whole thing there, but almost 95 cents on every dollar is a great place to be. And then on the next chart is just a growing and shows how this group has grown. And it's going to take another uptick next year. Come January 1, we're going to have our new 8 groups on there, 300 plus contracts, I believe it is, or right around 300, 278 contracts and some covered lives, or I'm sure they know it much better than I do, but okay, we'll move forward to slide 21, please. And just to show you how we're tracking the medical claims and the RX claims on the, excuse me, yes, the medical claims on the top and the RX claims on the bottom. RX just a shade above budget, and the medical claims trending nicely below budget, around 7% right now. And we won't go through all these slides, but the next one's just try to give you visual that's RX and medical put together. And then the next one's just a bar chart that shows you. The one thing I like to point out on here are the 4 months you see with the higher blue bars. Those are months where Excelis actually bills us 5 weeks in 1 month. So you're going to see that the budget amount for those months are higher than the other months. So the 4 high bars are a 5 weekly payment month, and the lower bars 4 weekly payments by Excelis. And another look is a monthly paid claims by fiscal year. And you just see how they're trending. You'll see the blue line kind of buried in the middle. And we're kind of on a traditional path, which leads us to one thing that we're still trying to wrap our heads around is why October seems to have a spike every year. And we haven't really pinpointed it, but we keep digging into that. Just a spike in claims at 1 month. It's not that it's putting this consortium in any type of issues. It's just, why is it every October they tend to have that little peak? So we're digging into that. And on the next slide is just a growing actual versus budget claims, your medical claims and RX claims. And then the next slide, again, paid claims versus budget claims. Just a lot of different ways. What I do like to highlight on here is if you see the circled area, and I'm going to talk about in the budget slides how we build our budget based on trends. It's not just throw a dart at the dartboard, and it's not, okay, well, this year we got this, let's just increase it 5%. We use a multi-year trend with all of our groups that we do business with and compare it to what Greater Tompkins County has done. But one thing that has skewed the data is if you look in that circle area is COVID-19, you see how many times that line bobs below the trend line. And that's where you need to be careful, because if you build a budget based on flawed data, I guess I would say, as you all know, a lot of people were not going to the doctor as much as they, hopefully when they needed to, they did, but they weren't doing elective surgeries and stuff like that. So there was some care that was put off and deferred during COVID, and that skews that trend line. So when we get to the budget, I'll talk about how we kind of pulled that out and went pre-COVID to build our budget. Good. Okay, any questions? We just keep rolling on into the budget presentation here now. So the next 2 pages are definitions, and I know you have the packet, so I'm not going to read all the definitions to you. Just give you the highlights of what our income sources are. Obviously, the primary source of income is our premiums. We have interest earnings, which are improving with the market conditions, and we have our RX rebates. We have manufacturer RX rebates that are available through the manufacturer back to consortium. That agreement, as Elin said, in the PROACT renewal, is improving. Each year, they give us a percentage or a dollar amount for each RX each prescription that's filled by a member, and that rebate comes back to the group and a quarterly basis. Next year, the RX rebates go up by about 4%, the guaranteed minimum, and then the following year, another 4%. So if we go with the 2024 renewal. So again, they're enhancing those RX rebates on the minimum payment side, and that $1 million reconciliation payment that I talked to you about from 2021, The value of this is we're gonna start getting RX money, our rebate money faster and sooner. So that helps us with cash flow. Okay, so we're not gonna have to wait for a big reconciliation payment. Nearly a year after the fiscal year, we're getting more money up front. And then what you're gonna see happen is that reconciliation payment is gonna dwindle. It's gonna become smaller and smaller because they're gonna pay more money up front. Okay, the next page, page 30. Did I skip one? I'm sorry, yep. Yeah, then we have the stop loss reimbursements and other income. I'm sorry. So the stop loss reimbursements, again, any claim that exceeds $1 million, that's when we will get reimbursement. So this consortium pays dollar for the first $1 million before we get any type of rebate, or excuse me, any type of refund through a stop loss reimbursement from our carrier. One thing you need to know about stop loss, a lot of times if you have a person or a claimant that goes over $1 million, say you have a very high cost claimant and they get $2 million in claims. We've seen that in a couple of our groups. One group had two $2 million claims in a year. What typically happens to those people in your next renewal, they're pretty good with their actuaries in evaluating whether they're going to hit those high numbers again. And then what they do is they assign a laser to them. So what they'll say is, okay, we think this person's going to have $1.7 million next year. So then you're going to be responsible for the first $1.7 million, and everybody else in the group will be $1 million. So stop loss insurance is difficult to manage when you have those high expensive claims. But again, you really want to try to avoid those lasers, but we don't know when those pop up. They could happen to any district or excuse me, any municipality, any town, any city, any village, any person, anytime. So that's where it's just important to manage that number when you're doing your stop loss RFPs. Okay, on the next slide. Okay, so the budget we're presenting today, as we've already went through audit, finance, executive committee, and they've all seen, is a 6.5% income on the premium income. So all income premiums going up 6.5%. We've come off 4 years of 5, so this is a little bit higher than we've had in the past. But I'll give you some stats a little bit later on what's been approved in the marketplace for small groups for 2023. For example, Excelis, when you blend together all their rates for small group policies that are known, that's 9.4% Department of Financial Services approved. If you look at all groups in the New York State, 7.9%. So at 6.5%, we're well below those lines, and you'll understand why it's 6.5% as we get through the rest of the presentation. Again, so this is the 2025 medical RX premiums going up 6.5%. Interest income and earnings, 450,000 based on market conditions. And then RX rebates were at 2.9. And you may look at our amended budget at 3 million. You know, this is the first year with the new agreement with ProAct, and we're working out the reconciliation payment of that. We think next year, conservatively, that number is probably going to be 3.2 million, somewhere more in that regard. So again, that will help offset any premium deficiencies that we may have for people changing plans and stuff like that. But we want to be conservative as we're moving into this new agreement with ProAct. And the next 4 years are just, again, you don't really need to be worried about them, but we're trending them at 7%. It could be less than that. It could be more than that in a very bad situation. But we put them out at 7%, and that's part of our goals of hitting certain undesignated fund balance 5 years out. And you're going to see those numbers at the end of the presentation. You don't need to worry about those today. We're voting on the 6.5% budget for 2023 only. These are for illustration purposes and long-range planning. Okay, if we go to slide 34, I'll start talking about the expenditure side. So we have just major categories here, and I'll talk about how we built the budget when I get to the financial slides. But we have our paid claims, we have claims administration fees, taxes, which is a covered life assessment and a PCORI tax. Those are part of the Affordable Care Act. We have stop loss coverage, professional services, insurance and internal fees. And then, of course, we have our salaries and benefits for our internal staff. So looking at the slide right here, and we broke it up into 2 pages, so it's a little easier to see than on the financial slide. You're going to notice that our medical claims, if you look at the amended budget, and again, we're being very conservative, but where we're trending now, 7% below budget, we're pretty comfortable with this. So I think we're in a good spot. We tried to go back pre-COVID. We went back before COVID hit and looked at where claims were trending and trended them forward from that time and kind of took that little recessed area out of the claims trend because that data was not really true data. If COVID never happened, those elective surgeries would have happened and all these other things would have happened. So we don't want to get too low here. But you're going to see that we're fairly flat in our medical claims for 2023. Yet when we went back to pre-COVID levels, we trended those claims at 4.75% increase. And I'll show you some charts in a little bit that shows you that data. And again, not just a dart on the dartboard, but using a lot of data to trend moving forward. We trended our RX claims, which is budgeted at 17.6 million at 7.5%. Same with Canada RX, a small portion of our medical fees. All of our admin fees, we trended at 3%. Excelis with the new sliding scale that Evelyn talked about, we're actually going to be a hair under 1% the first year, and then a hair under right around 2% for years 2 and 3 moving forward. Again, with those agreements, with Excelis, it's a 3-year agreement. They have a commitment for 3 years. This group can renew annually and get out with proper notification at any time. But they do have a 3-year commitment on the table to us, as PROACT has 2 more years of commitment on the table. Again, we do them annually, but again, the commitment's there for the financial piece. So on our medical side, we're in great shape. With the PROACT contract, it's really all fees are flat and frozen. The only things that increase are the guaranteed minimums for the RX rebates, and they also enhance the discount rates on the prescription drug side of things. So win-win-wins on all those admin contracts. For our covered lives and taxes that we pay for Affordable Care Act, covered lives and PCORI, we budget that at a 5% increase. So that's coming in for the 2 of those, roughly about $400,000. Our stop loss insurance, we're now trending at 10% increase, knowing that we're budgeting for the more expensive policy to help fund our catastrophic claim reserve also. And then if we did ever want to go back to a 600,000, the money is already there. We're not going to ask this group to raise an additional 1% in premium to make that happen, protecting ourselves for the long term. On the next slide, slide 37, all other fees really, any consultant fees, accountant fees, we built in a modest 3% increase. The salary and benefits are provided based on the agreements that are in place with the staff on hand, and that was provided by Greater Tompkins. And it comes out with a total expenditure number of $62.7 million for the year. And if you look at the next 4 years on the slide, we're not going to go through all this detail again. These are trending those claims at those same percentages that I just spoke about. We trended the medical claims forward at 4.75%, the RX claims 7.5%. Just carry them forward. And that's really for our long-term planning, trying to get to that, okay, where would we stand if this financial picture stays intact? Again, a lot of this can change. If this year continues on a very positive trend like it has been, we'll be in fantastic shape. Let's move to slide 41, please. Okay, so these are the trend lines we're talking. This is 11 years of that. There's more data, but this is 11 years. This is Greater Tompkins on its own. So if you look at their medical claims trend since 2011, it's averaging about 4.1%. So budgeting at 4.75% increase is very reasonable, because you got to remember, buried in that 4.1% is that little recess period of COVID. So that dragged the trend line down a little bit. So it's probably more like 4.25, 4.3. So 4.75, a good conservative number to build our claims on. But what we like to also, on the next, let's go to the next page first for Greater Tompkins. And that's our RX trend line. And you can see Greater Tompkins is at 5.875%, and pretty much right on that line. And they've been hitting that line consistently, yet we trended it at 7.5%. And I'll show you why as we get to our later book of business. Now, they've had a lot of people moving into the Platinum plan. That's helped trend that line down a little bit. And some of their other better plan designs that the groups are moving to helps that stay lower than our other book of business. But I do want to share that information with you. So if we move to the next slide, please. Okay. All right, so here, this chart here is all the different consortiums. We do business with a bunch of different groups, either cooperatives or consortiums. Some are made up of all school districts, some are made up of municipalities, towns, cities, just like you are. When you look at all those groups put together, you're going to see that trend line is 3.78 on the medical side. But again, you highlight that COVID period and you need to kind of extract that out of there and truncate it down. So we feel that the 4.75, because we're still coming out of COVID. And you know, just probably in the last week, I've heard 10 more people I know got COVID, you know, so we really don't know where this is gonna go this year with the COVID impact of this. So we feel that the best bet is to be safe and prudent and stay on that typical 4.75 trend line. We get 3, 4, or 5 years down the road and you can't even remember what COVID is, then you maybe look at adjusting that trend line down. But right now, it's best to be and more prudent to be conservative at this point in time. And this is where the RX trend line is a little bit higher. You look at the rest of our groups and all of our groups, and this group does include Greater Tompkins, you know, they're not just pulled out of this. They're at almost 7.2%. So that's where we use the 7.5%. We look at our whole book of business and what is happening regionally, and we're at 7.5%. So we stuck with 7.5% again, not knowing exactly where the COVID is going to end, and hopefully that's a good solid budget number for the group. Good. All right, let's move to slide 48, please. Okay, the next slides, and I know they're all in your packet. I'm not going to read these all to you, but these are where we define in greater detail all of our reserve funds and liabilities. So if you look through slide 48, you're going to just talk about liabilities. Then slide 49, we start talking about our reserve funds that we touched upon at the beginning of the presentation, the 2 statutory reserve funds, the IBNR, the surplus account, then our discretionary reserves, the catastrophic claims and rate stabilization. And then as you get into slide 50, 51, 52, and 53, you get a better definition of each one. I mean, I verbalized it a little bit, hopefully well enough early, and then it also gives you where we stand currently for those reserve funds. Again, I'm not going to read those 6 pages to you, but I would like to move to slide 55, please. Thank you. So what you can see right now, as of 2022, currently August 31st, you see the level of our reserve funds. You see our current IBNR reserve funds about 6.8 million. The surplus account 2.7 million roughly. Again, those are statutory required by law to carry as a group. Then our discretionary reserves, the rate stabilization reserves about 4 million, and the catastrophic claim reserve around 4.6 million. The Excellus advance deposit, that's money that we basically pay in advance to Excellus to pay claims. What happens is Excellus pays all the claims that come in a week, and then they bill us, and then we reimburse them. But they needed the money up front to pay them. So that money's still there. They pay them. So it's a kind of a back and forth. But each year that number just gives them the cash flow so they can pay out the claims before we get the bill and reimburse them. So that money's on the book right now, and it typically increases every year because it's based on your total claim amount. And if you go to the next slide, this just projects our reserve funds moving forward based on the budgets that were put in place, 22, 23. Again, the IBNR in each case is set at 12% of the projected claims, the surplus 5% of the projected premium increase, premium revenues. The claims and rate stabilization reserve, 7.5% of the paid claims, and this catastrophic claims reserve based on the resolution. We had a starting point of about 4.5 million. We add to it, we pull out of it depending on the claims that fall between that stop loss gap of 500,000 and $1 million. And then we get to the end, and this is one of our targets. Our goal is always to have around 12% undesignated fund balance or unencumbered fund balance. You'll see at the end of 2023, we're projecting to be 14.8. You see next year we slipped just a little bit below it based on this 4-year projection, 5-year projection, 11.9, 10.5, 10.3, and then it starts to climb again. Again, these bottom line numbers, they can change as soon as this fiscal year is done, December 31st. We stay on a trend of 7 or 8% below budget on claims, you know, that could end up being 15%, and then next year's over 12%. So they ebb and flow a little bit, but just keep in mind that the 2 that cannot change always have to be 12%, always have to be 5%, are those statutory reserve funds. The others, we have some discretionary use of And those are decisions that, I mean, they're hard financial decisions. Balancing what the groups can handle in premium income, what we need to have in reserves to stay fiscally responsible. And those are the decisions that are made during the entire budget process. I think I've hit about everything really. It's with that, that information, just keeping in mind that every 1% that they increase or decrease the budget revenues, premium revenues, equals about $560,000. So it doesn't take a lot of money. If you take 1% off that, or 2%, it's $1.2 million decrease in revenue. So it's a hard decision when you're trying to hit all of those targets, knowing that you're going to need to increase your statutory reserve funds. So it's always a balance. And if you go to slide 62, this is where I think they've demonstrated the balance of this group over time. If you look at it, I think that the one I like to look at is the most current 5-year number, 2019, and factored in the approval of a 6.5%, 2019 to 2023, 5.3% increase on average. I don't think you'll find that in many places across the state over a 5-year period. That includes a 6.5, but you're coming off, if you go back, even if you go back further, 15, 16, 5%, 3%, 5%, 4%, 5%. Really been doing a nice job managing the risk, and claims are getting a little bit expensive this year, and we need to hit some of those long-range planning targets. But again, I think a wonderful job the group's been doing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to any questions.
Thank you, Paul, for that presentation. Any questions for Paul at this time? Seeing none. Okay.
Everybody's either sleeping or.
We're really hungry.
Yeah, really. Okay. And in your packet, the premium increases is
122.
agenda packet page 122 shows all of those premium increases. So if you're walking away tonight going, what is my premium tomorrow? It's on that page. So,
And we will also,
sending notice.
Terry will be notifying everybody of premium increases pretty quickly.
Okay. So on packet page 123, we have the resolution adoption of our budget, our premium rates, and our reserve amounts for 2023. This has been through, as Paul said, the Audit and Finance Committee and the Executive Committee for a couple meetings, now going back and forth. It does specify the reserves as Paul discussed, and the increased premium revenue at 6.5% for 2023. There is one exception to that, which is the silver plan that has some modifications to it based on our policy. It has a reduction, so that silver plan will be an premium increase at 5.42%. So just want to make sure people are aware of that. So would somebody, I'll move this resolution. Would somebody like to second this resolution? Okay, Peter, second. Okay. Any discussion, comments, concerns? Okay, very quiet group. Since none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of our adopting our 2023 budget and premium, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Okay. Thank you. All right, so we will keep moving on our agenda. Appreciate the support from Lucy and Cahill and our staff on putting that budget together. It's been a lot of work and a lot of good collaboration. So number 10, report of claims and appeals. I think Elin, you're reporting on that again.
Yeah, I am reporting for Bud, who's sorry he couldn't be there here this evening. He did call me yesterday with his report. The Claims and Appeals Committee This year had two things. One, they're still working on, but the first thing they worked on is a audit of our prescription drug manager and how our claims have been paid for 2020 and 2019, and I don't know what year we're in, the last 2 years. That was reviewed by the committee with minimal issues regarding how our claims are being adjudicated by ProAct. It was decided that we have been working with BMI for several years as our auditor, and we have not gone out for an RFP. So we will be next week going out for an RFP for auditors on our, for both our medical and our prescription drugs. So once we determine who we're going to be utilizing, we will commence the medical claims audit, and the committee will look at that as well. I'm also really pleased to report that we don't have any appeals. We have a history of no appeals, and that trend is continuing. If there is a problem with someone's claim being paid, it is either going to Excelis and being resolved there. It's being resolved through our problem solver, Kylie Rodriguez. And if it does go to the state, we're notified from the state. And I think we only had one claim go to the state this year for clarification. So we are pleased that claims are being adjudicated according to plan. So thus concludes the report from the Claims and Appeals Committee.
Okay. So we'll move on for a report from the Joint Committee on Plan Structure and Design. One of their jobs is to look at our plans, and one of their major jobs is to look at the where our actuarial values come in for each of those plans. I'll turn it over to Elin.
Let's see if our vice chair is able to get.
I'll give this a shot. As long as my voice holds out, we're doing good, you guys. I was a little under the weather. I really wanted to come in person because I haven't seen everybody in so long, but being under the weather, here I am on Zoom. But hi, everyone. The Joint Committee throughout the year is also busy with so many different things. We look at a lot of different things. We review claims data, look at financial things, do a lot with coming up with ideas for wellness programs, talk about open enrollment, try to talk about, getting some of our labor groups, getting people on board, and we just love to see them at the meetings. But today we have some business that we need to take care of at this meeting. Each year, and what it is, it's 2 resolutions that the Joint Committee would like to put before the board. I'll paraphrase it a little bit for you. Each year, the consortium's required to review our metal level plans, as Judy was just talking about it, and reviewing those metal level plans. We need to make the necessary changes to those plans so that we can remain in compliance with the Affordable Care Act. The standard deviations are set by the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. And that sets our parameters for the actuarial values. And what happens is that each year, and Losi and Cahill, Steve's great at guiding us through this process and going through it. The metal level plans, the different benefits, and the information is put into the actuarial calculator, and it's run through the process to see if it falls. If our particular plan falls within our actuarial value set comes in within those parameters, and those parameters are a plus or minus 2%. So we can go either way. This year, and when you put those in and check them out, we found that we needed to make adjustments to the silver plan. So the first resolution that we have, and I can say that what happens is that's the task of the Joint Committee. is when what we do is, as I said, Steve, he puts together some options. So when we're trying to look at these changes in these in this silver plan, we focused on trying to make changes within the plan that would have the least financial effect on our subscribers, the least on our members, that would have the least effect on their families, on their financial situation, and with the rates and what the people deal with. So if we look at, I can show you what we had come up with. If we look at the resolution, approval of adjustments to the silver high deductible health plan. Okay, whereas the consortium must annually review the actuarial values for its metal level plans to ensure they each fall within the established ranges set by the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Center Services. Whereas upon entering data into the federal actuarial calculator for 2023, it was determined that adjustments need to be made to the silver high deductible health plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved on recommendation of the Executive Committee and the Joint Committee on Plan Structure and Design that effective January 1st, 2023, a benefit plan adjustment to the coinsurance amount, deductible and out-of-pocket maximums will be made to the consortium's silver high deductible health plans as follows. So, you could adjust one thing and get to where you want to be, or you could take a number of things, which is what the Joint Committee looked at this year. You can see by the chart that's on this resolution, where we made the change. There's the deductible for the single and family and we're just looking at in-network amounts right now. Okay. In order to meet that come within the actuarial value, set that to go within those parameters. The deductible for the single, we increased that by $250, and for a family by $500. Out-of-pocket maximums for single and family went up $1,000 for single and $2,000 for family. You can see that the coinsurance amount did go up. It went from 70% to 80%. So by making these, and you can also see it kind of gives you an idea how to look into this, what was changed for the out of network as well. So that's something that the committee had come up with after trying a lot of different combinations to get this within those parameters. So that is the resolution that is being presented to the board right now, as I've kind of explained the process that we went through. And I'd like to move that resolution.
Okay. Laura moves that. Is somebody like to second the resolution? Mark? Okay. All right, any discussion? This has been provided to the groups that have the silver plan, and they did have some input during the joint committee on this. So so we'll call for a vote on approval of the adjustment to the silver high deductible health plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. That passes. Thank you, Laura. You want to take the second one?
You're welcome, sure. Thanks, everyone. This is a resolution. Oh, and I didn't get the name of it. So anyway, what this is a resolution that's set up, as we were just talking about standard deviations. The standard deviations are set. And what we found is that the bronze plan, if you look down in toward the bottom of the resolution, you can see those deviations plus and minus 2%. If you go down now to the bronze, it's plus 5%, minus 2%. Okay, so I'll read this to you, and maybe Steve can help me make a little bit more sense out of maybe how to explain it to you as well. Whereas the consortium must annually review the actuarial values for its metal level plans to ensure that they fall within the established ranges set by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And whereas upon reviewing the results of the actuarial value calculations for the consortium utilizing the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, actuarial value calculator and methodology, it was noted that the percent of variation, in other words, the standard deviation, was amended for the bronze high deductible health plan. Now therefore be it resolved on recommendation of the executive committee and the joint committee on plan structure and design that effective January 1st, 2023, the standard deviation allowed for each of the consortium's level plans will be as follows. So this is something that's set for us. And I believe that we just have to pass this resolution in recognition of this.
Would you like to move that, Laura?
I'd like to move it. I would like to move this resolution.
Would somebody like to second this resolution? Okay, Mark, thank you. Any questions or discussion? This is actually good news for those that have the bronze plan, gives a little bit larger span of the deviation, which is great. Okay, so we'll call for a vote on the actual value standard deviation amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There was a question.
The difference in the deviation allows for more flexibility when it comes to the issue that we just resolved in the silver.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, so any no's or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
So I had thought that was set by, we have the ability to, obviously, to say what that deviation is, so we get to prescribe that.
This was a recommendation though from,
We as an organization, you mean?
Yeah.
We could not accept the recommendation from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So we are accepting what
Recommendation.
keeps us within
I see. Okay.
the,
I don't think we can choose to say that we want the platinum plan to be
I
89.
just had it in my head,
Yeah.
that it was always 2%.
Yeah.
so it has been. And in the last couple of years, the bronze plan has been really wonky. And they have allowed us to go without the range. So this year, CMS came up with the recommendation that the positive end be allowed to go up to 5%. So all those of us who have been wonky in the last couple of years, it was a broader range rather than them changing the whole calculator. I'm simplifying it quite a bit, but rather than them changing all the lines of the calculator, they said, we're going to keep the calculator, but we're going to allow your standard deviation to be a greater range. So that was kind of it was their recommendation.
I think that's the important thing. They did it on the positive side, but not on the lower side. They're not gonna let us slip too far below 60% of the bronze line. But they're gonna give that little wiggle room up to almost 65%.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all right, that resolution passes. I think that's all of our action items that we had to take for tonight. Any new business? You want to talk about the DFS audit?
Yeah, that was,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I don't think you voted.
Okay, we'll take another vote. I think we did, but all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so I think we voted on it twice. Still passes. Okay, I wanted Elin to talk a little bit about our DFS audit, Department of Financial Services audit.
All right. So I reported on this a little bit last month, and there hasn't been much movement since last month. But we are having the joy of being audited by the Department of Financial Services, which they haven't done in 5 years. And so they've started the audit on the IT side of the house and looking at business continuity and cybersecurity. And Terry is heading up the audit for both our IT side as well as our financial audit, which should commence in October. And if you looked at the audit line in our budget, you'll see it jumps up significantly. And the reason it jumps up significantly is because the Department of Financial Services can determine that they're going to audit you and charge you for that audit. So we pay for the Department of Financial Services the privilege of being audited by the Department of Financial Services. So we have talked to other consortiums in upstate New York that are currently actually going through audits. Some Lucy and Cahill customers, we reached out to another consortium we knew was going through an audit. And so we are budgeting about 150,000 next year and then a little 100,000 the following year, because we think the audit will go on for a long period of time. That is the average of what the other larger consortiums are being charged. So stay tuned. We just followed up on IT to say, we haven't heard from you. Do you need more stuff from us? And they said, we're still looking at your stuff. We'll contact you when we have more questions, and we'll see what happens when finance started. But I will say the one great thing about Michelle was she was anticipating these audits. So she made sure that anything that came up in the previous audits, we had a file for, that we were following the rules and regulations that they brought up previously and their recommendations we've been following. So I think we're going to be in great shape, and we've got a great team to deal with the Department of Financial Services, but it's going to take a lot of time and unfortunately some of our money as well.
Yes. They like to tell us that they're going to do an audit and then they bill us for it. So it's great. The other thing I wanted to just point out, if you did not attend our August 25th retreat and where we went over the budget, we did have a really good presentation from Kylie on the Medicare versus Medicare Advantage. I just invite you to watch that. It is under educational retreats on our website. It's a very good presentation. And with that, I don't have anything else. You have, okay.
No, I think we're
All
good.
right. So we will adjourn our annual meeting. I want to thank everybody for coming, those that attended online and in the room. Our executive committee will meet October 5th. So like I said, you're always welcome to come on and watch